transitioning from the facilities committee to the finance committee, but since we've got some facilities people here, I'm just going to adopt you and bring you into the finance committee side, because now that you've seen the change in the project, we're at the stage in the game, and Dennis mentioned going forward, that they're going to continue to work on the construction plans all the way up until the election in November. But from a financial side, the board has to make a decision about what to put on the ballot. We think in early August, right? Is the deadline. It's like the filing deadline for
July.
It's July. So tonight really is the night where the finance committee is supposed to review the financing options for the community and sort of make a conclusion on what approach to take to go back on the ballot. And that approach could be using a voted bond issue that's strictly property tax backed. And if you all remember, in November, we used the property tax and an income tax, an earned income tax of 0.5%. So what I wanted to do tonight was start with kind of reviewing, since our last finance committee meeting, we had 4 people attend, so it's kind of tough. So we're going to have to go back. I'm going to give a little bit of a refresher. This is a really important part of this meeting, so I'm going to take my time tonight, kind of go through all the things that we need to go through, and then just sit here at my computer and guide you through the model. Now, for those of you sitting in the very back, I've got spreadsheets, which from back there, and the screen's not very big, so I would recommend, if you want to see what we're doing, come up, get a little closer, get to know us a little better. Don't be bashful. We've been around for a while. Let's start with, and bear with me because I gotta work here. My computer's been acting a little weird. It's been running slow. I don't know what's going on, so bear with me on that. I'm not going to show you that yet. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I do want to refresh you on certain data about the community, the demographics that matter. This screen's driving me crazy. Okay. All right. At a glance, this is a snapshot. This is something that the screen's still that gives you an idea of what is happening within the community. The first line is the median family income. Am I fitting in the eyes? Can you guys see around me? I just stoop down. I'll sit. Median family income. Again, not to be a Debbie Downer, but the goal here, we're about to ask the community to increase taxes. Okay, and to ask for an increase in the cost of living in the community. You have to have a frame of reference as to what's going on in the community before you can do that honestly. And that's what my responsibility is to make sure that you're informed. So your demographics, as you can see, I don't need to go through them in detail, are not strong. And they're changing. And they're changing to a degree in the wrong direction. We also got updated numbers today from the state of Ohio on our income, the state income for the community. And your income numbers are also down again this year from the state. So there's a very clear pattern that the community is changing. And so this undertaking is not an undertaking that can be taken lightly. But one of the questions that someone asked me in earlier meetings is that, what can be done to sort of change the pattern of what's happening in your community? Now, this is not an uncommon pattern in many communities in the state of Ohio. Communities are like people. They're born and they grow up and they're real strong and they do really well, and then they start to age. And as they start to age, they start to show signs of weakness, like you're showing. The challenge is to be reborn again. When are you reborn? How are you reborn? What does it take to be reborn? Our community is aging, it's shifting in its wealth conditions, and the challenge is, how do you refurbish? How do you bring people back into the community? How do you breathe new life into the community? How do you attract younger families into the community? And one of the answers to that question, it isn't the only answer, but one of the answers to the question is facilities, school facilities. This isn't a vote yes speech, this is save your community speech. When young families have a choice to live in a community, they typically look at the school buildings, typically. And when they can go to another community that isn't far away, that has better facilities, they tend to lean toward those communities. Our demographics are demonstrating weakness in bringing younger families back into the community. So we have to be aware of that. We also have to be aware that we're showing a change in our aging, in our population. So, and not to go through all these things in detail, but we have a 28% increase of people living in the community with retirement income. At the very same time, an 8% decline in home values. Another statistic that is a warning, is an early warning sign, is that the number of people that live here with bachelor's degrees since 2010 have declined 30%. The young man over here that will be going again, it is true that if you have a college degree, you earn more money than people that don't earn a college degree. Okay? This pattern is an early warning indicator that this community that this trend here will likely continue unless there's some way of attracting people here that have college educations. Okay. Our 65 and over population has increased 19%, but that isn't really at this point a real big concern. It's 15% of the population. But when you look at the 45 to 65 category, we're at about 21% of the overall voter group. We are attracting people in the 20 to 44 category. It's a 7.1% increase there, but our 0 to 19 number is down pretty significantly. So we're growing in 20 to 44. We're just not bringing kids in, and it's an unusual pattern that I've seen. 25% increase in poverty. You know, the state average is 15, so we're still well below the state average, but we're moving in the wrong direction from a poverty perspective. Renter-occupied homes, even though that's 5.8%, the percentage overall isn't much of a concern at this point. The key takeaway from the demographics is that, and you guys are all aware, the community is changing, and the goal is to first understand that we are changing, and secondly, understand how new taxes will impact the people that are here now and potentially people that are here in the future. So let's go to any questions about the demographics before I move on. I think so that's it for the Debbie Downer stuff. But again, for those of you that haven't been in the Finance Committee, they've seen this now for over a year. This is like going into our second year of doing this stuff. So let's talk about cost. Make sure I got this right. So right now the project cost is $43,163,000. And if I remember right, that's higher now than it was from last year, for those of you who are unaware. The finance people learned last time that, and I'll say it again, this project just gets more and more expensive the longer it takes. Inflation has a tendency to drive the cost of a project up. So the project went up by almost...
It was $1 million. It was close to $1.5 million.
Okay.
So that $1.5 million is a combination between inflation and the storm shelter requirements. There's a new requirement, state code requirement, that facilities like this, community facilities, need to have an area designated as a storm shelter. So there's additional funds in there, 500 and some odd thousand, to reinforce the structure around a certain area. So there's dedicated restrooms and just a more solid structure in a specific area of the building.
Okay. So we had so an increase in the project cost from last year to this time, but then the architects were able to reduce the amount of money that you were spending for your locally funded initiatives down to $6.8 million, which is here, and that was about $400,000. Which about 400. So the net gain, even though we took 400,000 out, we ended up being about $100,000 more overall. Is that right?
I think it was just over $7 million before. I don't think it
Okay, so it's just a couple $100,000.
There's a combination.
Yeah.
There's a combination between two things. So
Okay.
We brought LFI costs down a little bit to help offset some of the costs. The percentage of co-funding went up, which means the state is chipping in more money. So the taxpayer local funding is only about $400,000 difference. So when we're talking about 30, 25 some odd million.
Yeah, well, 31.8.
31.8 is the total. So when we're talking about 400,000 across there, we did sort of what we could to try to make that as close to what last year's cost was going to be.
Okay, so where we are right now is we're working with the 31,834 is now the targeted amount that the community needs to fund to build the new school facilities. And our choices at this point, we need the 31,834. And in addition to that, the district needs to contribute money for the maintenance of the buildings once they're constructed. And that maintenance is the equivalent of a $500,000. Equivalent of a $500,000. So our choices are to do the 31,834 as a property tax backed bond issue only. So it's just on the ballot as a single bond issue, 31,834, plus a $500,000 for the maintenance of the school buildings. Since last year, interest rates have gone up pretty significantly. And some of our earlier finance committee meetings, I was showing you the impact of interest rate increases. And it's started to happen. So now this is a workshop at this point. This isn't a presentation. So I'm about to just start showing you in the models exactly what we're looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and take us into a bond issue model. I'm going to put the entire bond issue into the model. Okay. Yes. All right. So this is a model that some of you have seen before. It's what I use to calculate the ballot millage. This is the school district's tax base. So this is the value of all the property in the school district and the base on which the taxes would be charged to finance this project. 37 years is the term that we would finance the bond issue for. The interest rate is up to 5.25%, and I believe last year we used 4.25%. And these are all formulas that calculate this one number. What would the average payment be on a $31 million bond issue? Would be $1.78 million per year. That would require a tax rate of 8.68 mils. And then if we added a $500,000 for the maintenance levy, which we would be required to have by the state of Ohio, that would take us to 9.18 mils total. And for a $100,000 home, that would calculate out to, this is going to the right cell.
Should be 303. I'm coming up with 303.
Annual?
Mm-hmm. For a $100,000 home. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Let me.
No, that's it.
Nope, 321.
Yeah. So we're looking at $26.76 a month for. Now this is strictly for a $100,000 home, and we use $100,000 as a number that just sort of makes it easy to try to figure out where your property tax might be. Yes, sir.
That $100,000, that's taxable, not what your home is.
This $100,000 is based on the market value that the county auditor says your home is worth. So there's kind of the value that you think you can sell your house for, and then there's the value that the county auditor says that your house is worth. And then there's yet another value, which is the assessed value, which is 35% of this number. So this is not the assessed value, but this is the market value as the county auditor sees the value of your home.
I'll find out what that is.
Yeah, so you can go to the county auditor's website and we'll have it on there. So, so we're looking at $26.76 for the monthly cost for this particular project, solely as a property tax. Okay. Okay. The other thing I want to point out is that for the sake of doing statistical comparisons, the median, back to this table, the median home value in the community is $160,000. So statistically speaking, there are as many homes in the community that are valued more than $160 as there are below $160. So to be fair, I wanted to make sure that we had a representation of what the median property tax would be for this bond issue. So the median property tax based on a $160,000 home would be $42.82 a month. And this is before for senior citizens, and I have got to, we're going to go through this a little bit more. I'm not looking at you because you're a senior citizen. That's because I know you care, and I want to make sure I'm talking about. I have a table that actually shows the cost for senior citizens. So option one is a model that shows us that is choosing to put a bond issue on the ballot, no income tax in any way, shape, or form, that would appear probably at 8.7 mils, because the auditor will likely round it to 8.7, plus the additional half mil, and then the cost estimate for 100,000 will be 26.76, or for the median 42.82. Any questions or thoughts about this? All right, so let's talk about the income tax. We got our new numbers from the state on an income tax, and this is a spreadsheet that I use to calculate how much can be financed using an income tax. Last time we used a half percent income tax. It would have allowed us to finance almost $15 million for the facility. We received new numbers from the state today that showed lower income projections for the community. So to a degree, we're kind of lucky we didn't pass a 0.5% income tax thinking we could do 15 million, because these are actually the new numbers, and based on the new numbers, we would have been at 14.5 million versus the 15 million that we thought. And so I'm glad that we got updated numbers today. What I'm talking about is the state of Ohio tracks how much money people in the community make. And last year, this number was quite a bit higher. It was 250 million, and then this year it dropped to 230. Well, I should say this year. In 2016, it dropped to 237 million for total income. So one of the negatives of using an income tax to finance school buildings is the possibility of this, of income going up and down and up and down and up and down. But I did rerun it with the new numbers using a 0.5%. We would be able to do it would be substantially smaller than it was last time. And I don't want to belabor this point, but I want to ask, we had a survey that was done, and we had a lot of feedback following the election about the use of an earned income tax. And I'm just curious, from those of you in the room, how you feel about that. Is it something that we think is worth still discussing? Is it something that you all feel? Now, I'm just the educator and facilitator. Feel free to talk, because we need to hear some feedback about the value and the use of using an income tax. Do we have anyone that feels strongly that that's the way that the community should go? Do we have people now that say that feel that maybe we should just abandon the idea of using an income tax. What do you guys think?
Well, I've heard for years, so many people say, I'm retired, I don't have kids in the school, I don't have grandkids in school, why should I pay for school bills and stuff? I think for those people, that the income tax would lessen their burden.
And that's what we heard. Did everybody hear what he was saying? That and when last year when we did the finance committee, we had a fair number of people that felt like the income tax would be more fair to people that were on fixed income or retired or whatever the case may be, which was why the group opted to go with a 0.5% income tax.
American income tax, earned income tax.
Yeah, well, with an earned income tax, and to be clear, an earned income tax, the district can choose an income tax which taxes all income, including retirement and Social Security. An earned income tax does not tax retirement, it does not tax Social Security, it does not tax unemployment benefits, it does not tax capital gains, it only taxes earned income. So you have to work, you have to have a W-2 wage to bring that money in.
So if you keep it at 0.5%, you have a projection of what the...
Yeah, let me just take you there, and this will drive the conversation even more. Okay. Buckle your seatbelts. So I put together two cases, one with a 0.25% income tax and one with a 0.5% income tax. And this is the amount of how much of a bond we can finance with a 0.25%, and that will leave a balance for the property tax bond of this amount, giving us the total of $31.8 million. And I broke it down, so this column represents people that would be under 65, and this column would represent people that are over 65 and assumes that they don't have earned income, that all of their income is coming to them from some other source. So with a 0.25% income tax and a bond issue combined, people that are under 65 and this is using the median home value and the median family income. Okay, so there's half as many people above these numbers as there are below these numbers. Using a 0.25%, non-seniors would pay $47 a month, and seniors would pay $29 a month. If you move that to a 0.5% income tax, we could get up to about $11 million in financing. That would reduce the bond issue to $20 million and we'd still get the 31. And you can see the shift here where the monthly cost for non-seniors would be 25. And then this is median family income and median home value. So this represents basically the total cost coming out of a household. $52.08 a month. But it would have the best benefit on seniors. It would take it down to $22.46 a month for people 65 and over that aren't earning income. And then the bottom is the first case that we went through on the first page, where it's strictly property tax. So strictly property tax, $42.98 and $36.29 for seniors per month on a strictly property tax basis.
Did we answer the question in the survey?
Yes.
And the answer was?
I think it was pretty split. It was,
how was it split by age?
People that were retired voted mostly for the income tax. And we had a really good cross-section in our last finance committee. And if you remember the vote, it was basically half the room said go with the income tax and the other half of the room didn't. And here's the challenge for those of you that haven't been in the finance thing. The reason, so every time this number for the seniors goes down, this number has to go up. It's basic algebra for the young men sitting over here. And so the more, someone has to pick up the difference. And so as we try to make it more affordable for seniors, the rest of the community has to be willing to pick up the excess cost. And I think that's where one of the challenges is at some point it becomes pretty expensive whether you're working or not. And trying.
Survey, didn't we get the voting as far as who said yea, who said nay, as far as by age demographic?
Yeah, I can't recall.
So, I mean,
What was the,
well, that's supposed to call sense, I guess, is one.
what was that survey on the age side? Was it mostly no on the older voter?
I want to say yes, Bob.
Yeah, I can't recall off the top of my head. So, let's start with first, no matter how you slice it, it's expensive. I mean, the architects have done, you've got, it's a bare bones. It's not the most elaborate facility I've ever seen designed. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. It's still, you've got the state giving you 42% out of this project, contributing it to it, and it's still expensive. And so this is really a matter of finding the most, the best balance possible while recognizing it's expensive, no matter how you slice it. And then saying to yourself as residents of a community that's suffering from a term I refer to as contraction. Some people might say, I can't afford to do this, and I'm going to tell you, I don't think you can afford not to. There's not a whole lot that you have control of that can help change the direction of this community, but this is one of them. And it may be expensive. You may have to cut Netflix or Voodoo or one of the other pay-per-view channels for a few years until the community can turn around. But there's not a whole lot else that you have control over to try to make the community more attractive for other people to come in. And the only way to change this pattern is to find something that brings people over here so that they want to live. Now, people will come over here and go across the street and come down to Dunkin' Donuts and get whatever they need and head back out again. But you need to have something where people want to live here, stay here. And I know that someone will say, well, David, our taxes are going to be expensive. That's not going to be, that's not going to help our case any to attract people. All I can say is that, I have lots of communities that have nice school facilities and really, really high taxes, and the people love it. Pickerington being one of them. I was there last night, and they have some of the highest taxes in the state, but their school buildings are really nice, and people love the community. But now that we see this laid out like this, and you understand what we're up against, and we have the choice of doing nothing. I can also put a 0 on here, and we can do nothing and not raise taxes at all. Just maintain the status quo. But I promise you this, the buildings that you have won't last another 100 years. And by the time that someone here finally decides that you have to deal with them, it's going to cost a heck of a lot more than $32 million to fix it. And the interest rates are probably going to be 8%, about it. And these numbers will look like a bargain by the time you get around to it. So just think about it and process it. But we have a challenge. The board needs direction from you all. You live here, this is your community. They want to do, place on the ballot something that best reflects how you feel. Now, obviously we can't guarantee that anything will pass, but we want to make sure we're fair. What goes on the ballot reflects as fairly as possible how you feel, and it can be explained to the residents of the community why it's done. And unfortunately, there are no other, I'm really good at what I do. There are no other tricks up my sleeve. This is it. This is as good as it gets, other than my warning that it gets more expensive than this if we're not successful in November. And it gets further down the road and further down the road and further down the road, and it just snowballs. So who wants to volunteer first to take the microphone and talk to the rest of the folks in the room about their thoughts? Someone has to, because all I am is your facilitator. I'm the conscience that sits on your shoulder and whispers in your ear. Who wants to go first?
The demographics show declining in Rootstown.
Yes.
Property value, income, number of families. Has there been any studies to show if that's caused by the school facilities here? Any correlation?
No, there's no, the district hasn't hired anyone. It's kind of hard to do a study like that. When people leave, you don't necessarily know where they go. You know, I mean, sometimes people leave, they're not leaving upright, you know, I mean, they don't leave. So you don't really know for sure why they're leaving, but you can find out why people don't come, or why they choose to live in different communities. You know, there are tons of surveys that are done in Ohio that say.
Traditionally, I always thought when people looked at moving into a community, they looked at the school system.
Traditionally, yeah. And in the old days, we used to look at how good the school district was. I mean, how many, did they get excellence, or were they in the schools, and how good were the programs, and how good were the teachers and things like that. As generations change, people are becoming more interested in the amenities that schools have to offer. You know, what's the athletic facility like? I want my kid to play in the best football stadium possible. What's the gym like? You know, what's the auditorium like? Does it have a swimming pool or an auditorium, or whatever you call it? Our society has become more interested in, the millennials like activities. You know, they don't want to work every day. They want to enjoy life. They want to, they want to go outside. They want to ski. They want to ride their bicycles. They want to climb mountains. I know this because my daughter is like, man, she's like the prototype millennial. She's like, Dad, she gets off at 5 o'clock, and I mean, she's in her car at 5 o'clock. She's out of there. School buildings have to reflect, we see ourselves only where we are at the moment, and we don't really see ourselves as to where we're going in the future. And so younger families are looking for things that reflect who they are, not who we are. So when they choose school facilities, they're not as interested necessarily in the production, how great the schools are at educating kids. They want that. But they also want facilities that match up with their lifestyle, the things that what their kids' lifestyles will be like. So when they come here, they're looking at facilities that match a lifestyle from the 40s, and the 50s. And they don't see facilities that match today's lifestyle or what they would expect to happen in the future. So they just find districts around here, and you've got plenty for them to pick from, to go to and do that. So knowing why people leave, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you why younger people will pick other communities to live in versus this one.
One thing we see, our facilities are great for what they do. People like that have done a great job with what we have. But the more they grow across the street, the worse we look.
Yeah.
And when people come down the street, it's like, when you look on one side, it's smaller, you look 40 years in the past to the right. Our housing in the area is more like what our school is, because the housing hasn't increased. And we look at Saban and Seymour, used to be some of the prime properties, not a place to live. I think we actually look for some of the prime places to live. Now they're not. They've not expanded, they've not gotten better. So I do believe that things get better with a better school. We look next door, how many people next door at our largest employer in the township, how many people live in Rootstown? And why do they not live in Rootstown?
Your point is perfect. Whenever I come in, I look over there and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And I look over here. It makes it worse. It makes it look worse than it really is. Yeah. Right. So why is it so easy for them to get students?
Because they have paid students.
Yeah.
Ours don't pay, we're paying for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're right, for their facility.
Yeah, they have some of your students.
They should pay for that. It's a business. This is,
Yeah, but they have some of your students over there. Yeah. And so your tax dollars follow that, support those facilities because the students get enrolled. I mean, you're following how that flow of money hurts the district. So it's kind of a quandary because you got a new facility that attracts students that belong here over there. And it takes the tax dollars that were coming here and sends them over there, which makes it even harder for us to keep up with them. And it shouldn't be an us-them, it should be a symbiotic relationship, but it's because we're so far behind what they have to offer. You can't be faulted for your kids going over there. But you should, but it does feed a system that makes this situation so untenable. I mean, that
Where us to kneel is like comparing Stanley Hall or Saving Street.
as it is today, yeah. But the future could be different, and that's what this is about. This is about not just money, but the future of the school district.
You know, they're expanding again, their school is expanding
Yeah.
again. That's being paid for by us, but we just don't have a vote in.
Right.
This, we're trying to expand to be able to vote in.
Exactly.
And where's our money going to spend?
Right.
I don't know the answer, but I'm saying that.
Yeah. So, income tax, earned income tax at 0.5%, earned income tax at 0.25%, all property tax have different dynamics for different residents of the school district. And the board is hoping that you'll help them figure out what is a better approach. We know that the 0.5% didn't go over, so we can go back with the same idea again and try really hard to explain the cost to the different residents. And it may have been just lost in translation. Maybe some of the seniors didn't realize that the earned income tax would have substantially been better for them. It was the best choice at 0.5% than any of the other choices. So going back to the 0.5% with a really strong educational program could do the trick. But again, $52 a month is $52 a month on this side of it. This again, using the median. So there'll be half the people below that number and half the people above that number. Or you can soften it a little bit by going to 0.25%. And or fully as a property